Here's a number that might stop you cold. In most of America, people lose over 100 days a year to weather that's too cold, too gray, or just plain miserable to step outside. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a place where the sun clocks in for 271 days a year. And one Florida city once went 768 days in a row without a single sunless day. That's not a typo. That actually happened. So what if you never had to check the forecast again? What if winter meant shorts, sandals, and a light jacket you never actually wear? Somewhere in Florida, that life is real. And it's not where most people think. Forget the crowded, famous hotspots. The towns with a truly perfect year-round weather are hiding in plain sight. Stick around because number 8 barely has a winter at all. If even one of these towns made you pause and picture a warmer life, do this real quick. Drop the name of the town you'd move to tomorrow in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely love seeing where you'd go. We pour a ton of work into these videos, so if it helped you, hit subscribe. It's just one click and it means the world to us. Number 10, Punta Gorda. We kick things off on the Gulf Coast with a town most people have never even heard of, and that's exactly why it's such a gem. Punta Gorda sits tucked along the sheltered waters of Charlotte Harbor in southwest Florida, and it quietly delivers one of the most comfortable, balanced climates in the entire state. Here's what makes it special. Punta Gorda enjoys that classic southwest Florida recipe of abundant sunshine, warm winters, and a narrow temperature range that keeps the brutal extremes far away. You won't find bone-chilling cold snaps here, and thanks to its calm harbor location, you won't get slammed by rough open surf either. Winter days settle into a gentle, pleasant warmth, while the water stays glassy and inviting almost year-round. The magic ingredient is that protected harbor. Because the town wraps around a sheltered bay rather than facing the open ocean, the waters stay noticeably calmer and the whole place feels breezy and relaxed rather than harsh. It's the kind of climate that lets you actually live outdoors instead of just enduring the weather. Practical tip: Punta Gorda's calm harbor is a dream for beginner-friendly water activities. Kayaking and paddleboarding here are far less intimidating than battling open ocean waves. So if you've ever wanted to try, this is the place to learn. Head out in the early morning when the sun is up but gentle and the water is at its stillest. You'll glide across a mirror-flat surface with barely a ripple, and you'll have the harbor practically to yourself before the day heats up. Picture this: a soft golden sunrise reflecting off perfectly still water, a warm breeze carrying the faint smell of salt, and a quiet town waking up around you at its own unhurried pace. No crowds, no chaos, no famous name price tag. Just a genuinely near-perfect climate hiding right under everyone's noses. Punta Gorda is living proof that you don't need a big, flashy reputation to find some of the best year-round weather Florida has to offer. It's the quiet overachiever of this entire list. Number 9, Pensacola. Now for a real curveball, one that's going to surprise you. Most people take one look at a map, see that Pensacola sits way up in the Florida Panhandle, and immediately assume it's too far north to make a perfect weather list. But here's the truth almost nobody talks about. Pensacola is quietly one of the most balanced climates in the entire state. And for one very specific reason, it might just be the best fit for a certain type of person. Let's talk numbers. Pensacola offers long, generous stretches of days, sitting right in the comfortable 66 to 85 degree range. That sweet spot where you don't need heat and you don't need air conditioning, you just need to step outside. Winters here are genuinely mild, and summers bring plenty of that signature Florida sunshine. But the real headline is something you feel rather than see. Pensacola enjoys lower dew points during its cooler months, which is the technical way of saying the air feels lighter, drier, and far less sticky than the muggy heaviness Florida is infamous for. That's a huge deal. For a lot of people, it isn't the heat that ruins Florida. It's the humidity, that thick, wet blanket that makes even a warm day feel exhausting. Pensacola gives you the warmth and the sun while easing off that heaviness in the off-season, and that combination is surprisingly hard to find. Practical tip: if humidity is your absolute deal breaker, put Pensacola at the top of your short list and plan your visit for fall or early spring. That's when the air feels its lightest and crispest, and when the town's famous sugar white beaches are at their most jaw-droppingly beautiful. Pure powder sand against emerald green water. Imagine strolling along that bright white shoreline with a cool, dry breeze on your face instead of a sticky one. The sun warm but never overwhelming. That's the Panhandle secret. Pensacola proves that perfect Florida weather doesn't only live in the South. Sometimes it's hiding way up north with a little extra breathing room built right in. Number 8. Key West. All right, this next one is almost cheating, because when it comes to stable year-round weather, nowhere else in the continental United States even comes close. Welcome to Key West, the tiny island at the very southern tip of the Florida Keys, and quite possibly the closest thing to a truly seasonless paradise you'll find on American soil. Here's the stat that makes climate nerds do a double take. In Key West, the average monthly temperature is typically only about 15 degrees lower in winter than in summer. Think about that for a second. In most of the country, the gap between January and July can be 50, 60, even 70 degrees. In Key West, it's barely a whisper. The seasons don't really change here so much as they gently lean one way or the other. What does that look like day to day? Winter afternoons sit comfortably in the mid to high 70s, the kind of weather most of the country would kill for in the middle of December. Even the hottest stretch, around August, only pushes an average high near 89 degrees. And February, that's when Key West serves up some of the clearest skies of the entire year. There is essentially no cold season here. None. You could pack a single suitcase in January and be perfectly dressed. Practical tip. Because it barely ever cools down, Key West is the ultimate winter escape hatch. Plan a trip for January or February when much of America is scraping ice off windshields, and you'll be trading that misery for shorts, flip-flops, and a front row seat at the island's famous sunset celebrations down at Mallory Square. Close your eyes and picture it. Swaying palms, turquoise water glowing in the afternoon light, a warm salt breeze that never once makes you reach for a jacket, and a crowd gathering to cheer, actually cheer, as the sun melts into the sea. If perfect weather all year had an official headquarters, it would plant its flag right here in Key West. Number 7, Stuart. Now we cross over to the Atlantic side of the state and land in a town built almost from the ground up for people who love being outside. Meet Stuart, proudly known as the sailfish capital of the world, and its climate is a huge part of why that reputation exists. Let's start with the sunshine, because it's genuinely impressive. Stuart racks up over 3,200 hours of sunshine per year. To put that in perspective, that's the kind of number that quietly reshapes how you live. You stop planning your days around whether it'll be nice and start planning around what you'll do while it is. And the town's clearest, most brilliant skies roll in from March through May, turning spring into an almost non-stop stretch of blue sky perfection. What really sets Stuart apart, though, is the feel of its cooler months. Winters here are short, breezy, and genuinely comfortable. Not the kind of harsh, do-you-need-a-coat winter, but the pleasant, windows open, light breeze kind. That's exactly why the boating, sailing, and fishing culture here doesn't just survive the off-season, it thrives right through it. When the weather cooperates this reliably, the water becomes a year-round playground instead of a summer-only treat. Practical tip: if you're a water person, or you've always wanted to be one, target spring in Stuart. That's when the skies are at their absolute clearest, and the temperatures settle into that comfortable, breezy zone that's practically made for being out on the water. Whether it's a fishing charter, a lazy sailboat afternoon, or just watching the harbor from shore, spring is Stuart at its finest. Now picture the scene: sleek sailboats drifting across water that sparkles like scattered glass, a warm breeze filling the sails, and a sky overhead that simply refuses to cloud over. That's Stuart on a good day. And the beautiful part is that around here, most days are good ones. It's a town where the weather doesn't just cooperate, it practically invites you outside. Number 6, Vero Beach. Staying on the sun-soaked Atlantic coast, we arrive at a quiet all-star that flies way under the radar. And honestly, that's a big part of its charm. Welcome to Vero Beach, the crown jewel of Florida's aptly named Treasure Coast, and one of the most effortlessly comfortable places to live anywhere in the state. Here's why it earns its spot. For most of the year, temperatures in Vero Beach hover in a beautifully mild sweet spot, ranging from the low 60s to the high 80s. That's the kind of range where you're rarely too hot and almost never too cold. A gentle, forgiving climate that just works day after day. And this isn't just local pride talking. Vero Beach has repeatedly earned recognition on lists, ranking the best weather cities in the entire nation, holding its own against far more famous names. What makes Vero so special is balance. It gives you everything you want from coastal Florida, the warmth, the sunshine, the ocean air, but without the intensity, the crowds, and the relentless pace of South Florida's biggest cities. And there's a secret weapon working in your favor here: the steady ocean breeze. That constant flow of sea air keeps things feeling fresh and comfortable, even when the sun is putting in a full day's work, taking the edge off the heat in a way that inland towns simply can't match. Practical tip: let that sea breeze do the heavy lifting. On a warm day, choose the beachside over inland spots. That oceanfront airflow can be the difference between a day that feels hot and heavy and one that feels absolutely just right. It's a small choice that completely changes your comfort. Imagine a softer, slower version of the Florida dream. Uncrowded golden beaches, a cool breeze rolling in off the Atlantic, and a laid-back town that never feels like it's rushing you. Vero Beach isn't loud about how good it has it, but once you feel that weather, you understand exactly why the people who live here never want to leave. Number 5. St. Petersburg. Now buckle up, because this next town doesn't just have great weather, it has a world record to prove it. Say hello to St. Petersburg, a city so relentlessly sunny that it holds the official Guinness World Record for the most consecutive sunny days ever recorded. Ready for the number? 768 days in a row. That's more than 2 full years without a single sunless day. Let that sink in. And that jaw-dropping streak isn't a one-time fluke. It's a reflection of how this city operates every single year. St. Petersburg averages an astonishing 361 sunny days annually, which is why it proudly wears the nickname the Sunshine City. When your town has both the reputation and the record book to back it up, that's not marketing. That's a climate you can genuinely count on. The temperatures match the sunshine, too. St. Petersburg enjoys a comfortable annual average right around 74 degrees, with the thermometer typically staying between the mid-50s and high 80s, and rarely straying into uncomfortable extremes. It's warm, it's bright, and it's wonderfully consistent. The trifecta most people are chasing when they dream of moving somewhere warm. Practical tip: when sunshine is this dependable, you can actually build your lifestyle around it. Lean into sun-friendly daily routines. Morning runs along the scenic waterfront, browsing open-air markets, lingering over rooftop dinners as the evening cools. Locals here operate on a simple, wonderful assumption that most of the rest of the country can only envy. Today is going to be nice, and it usually is. Picture waking up to that soft golden light streaming through your window for what feels like the 1,000th day in a row. Palm trees glowing, the bay shimmering, and an entire city that plans its days around the near certainty of sunshine. St. Petersburg doesn't just hope for good weather, it practically guarantees it. And with a world record sitting on the shelf to prove the point, it's tough to argue with results like that. Number 4. Sarasota. Heading back to the Gulf Coast, we reach a town where world-class culture meets a genuinely near-perfect climate. This is Sarasota, a place that manages to be sophisticated and sun-drenched at the same time, and it might just be the most balanced pick on this entire list. Let's look at what makes it tick. Sarasota soaks up around 251 days of sunshine every year, and it boasts a year-round average temperature that lands right on a beautifully comfortable 72 degrees. But the real story here isn't any single extreme, it's the comfort curve. Temperatures generally glide from the low 50s in the coolest month up to the low 90s at the peak of summer, which means you rarely feel truly frozen or truly miserable. It's Florida with the volume turned to a perfect, pleasant medium, warm enough to enjoy, mild enough to relax in. That gentle, forgiving climate is exactly what makes Sarasota so livable. You get the sunshine and warmth people move to Florida for, but without the harsh, sweat-through-your-shirt intensity that some parts of the state are known for. And because the winters stay so mild, life here simply doesn't hit pause when the calendar flips to December. Practical tip: take full advantage of those famously mild winters by staying active outdoors all year long. Walking the world-renowned powder-soft white quartz sand of Siesta Key stays perfectly comfortable even in January, while huge swaths of the country are shoveling snow. You could be strolling barefoot on one of the best beaches in America. That's the kind of contrast that makes people fall in love with this place. Now picture it: warm sun on your shoulders, some of the finest white sand beaches on the planet stretching out before you, and evenings just cool enough to actually want to sit outside with a good meal and better company. Sarasota proves you don't have to choose between comfort, culture, and climate. Here, you get all three, wrapped up in one wonderfully balanced package. Number 3, Fort Myers. Now we arrive at a town with a nickname that tells you everything you need to know: the City of Palms. This is Fort Myers, one of the crown jewels of Southwest Florida, and a place with such famously good weather that even Thomas Edison himself chose it for his winter home. When one of history's greatest inventors picks your town for the sunshine, that's about as strong an endorsement as it gets, and the numbers absolutely back him up. Fort Myers shares that golden Southwest Florida statistic of roughly 271 sunny days per year, far above the national average of around 205. That's the reason Edison was drawn here in the first place. Not the beaches, not the palm trees, but the light. Day after day of dependable, glorious sunshine that turns ordinary afternoons into something special. The temperatures are just as inviting. Winter lows average a mild mid-50s, comfortable enough that cold here would be considered a pleasant day in most of the country, while the warm season settles into the low 90s. But what truly sells Fort Myers isn't any single dramatic number. It's the sheer consistency. Day in and day out, you get pleasant, usable, get outside and do something weather. That reliability is worth more than any one perfect afternoon. Practical tip: Fort Myers is a fantastic home base if you crave variety in your outdoor life. Put those endless sunny days to work by exploring the nearby barrier islands. The calm, gentle Gulf water here makes it wonderfully beginner-friendly for paddleboarding, kayaking, and shelling. You could spend weeks just working your way through the coastline and never run out of new spots. Close your eyes and picture it: tall palm fronds rattling softly overhead in a warm breeze, sunlight scattered across calm turquoise water, and something cold in your hand as you watch the day drift by. And here's the best part: that's not some rare, once-a-year vacation moment. In Fort Myers, that's just a random, ordinary Tuesday. No wonder Edison never wanted to leave. Number 2, Bonita Springs. We're into the top 2 now, and this next town is a bit of a hidden overachiever, a place that quietly outshines its bigger, more famous neighbors. Just up the coast from Naples sits Bonita Springs, a smaller town that punches so far above its weight, weather-wise, that it deserves to be a household name. Here's the headline that says it all: Bonita Springs logs an eye-popping 271 sunny days a year, ranking it among the very brightest spots in the entire state of Florida. That's roughly 2 out of every 3 days bathed in sunshine, the kind of consistency that fundamentally changes how you live your life. You stop planning around the weather and start simply assuming it'll cooperate, because far more often than not, it does. And it's not just the sun, it's the stunning stability. Temperatures in Bonita Springs rarely climb above the low 90s or dip below the low 40s, giving you a remarkably tight, comfortable range with none of the wild, unpredictable swings that make so many other places exhausting to live in. Spring and fall are the standout shoulder seasons here, settling into a dreamy mid-70s that many locals will quietly tell you is the actual definition of perfect weather. Not too hot, not too cool, just flawless. Practical tip: With this many sunny days on the menu, the smart move is to build your outdoor life around the mornings. Get your beach walk, your kayak trip, or your bike ride in before noon, and you'll neatly sidestep both the peak midday heat and the classic Florida afternoon rain shower. Do that, and you'll unlock the best version of every single day. Imagine a town where the honest answer to "what should we do today" is almost always something outdoors, because the weather practically insists on it. Warm mornings, gentle breezes, and sunshine you can count on. Bonita Springs isn't the famous name on the map, but when it comes to near-perfect year-round weather, it's an absolute heavyweight. And that lands it at number 2. Number 1, Naples. And here we are, the number 1 spot, the town that practically defines the phrase, endless summer done right. Welcome to Naples, the crown jewel of Florida's Gulf Coast, and the gold standard against which near-perfect weather is measured. If you've ever daydreamed about a life without harsh winters, without gray skies, without that constant weather app anxiety, this is the place that dream is built on. Let's talk about why it earns the top spot. Naples enjoys roughly 264 sunny days per year, comfortably clearing the national average of around 205, with winter afternoons hovering at a downright dreamy 74 degrees. But the real secret weapon here is the narrowness of its temperature range. Over the course of an entire year, the thermometer typically swings only from the mid-50s to the high 80s, and it rarely drops below the mid-40s. That's an unusually tight, forgiving band. Translation: you get all the warmth and sunshine you crave, without the brutal extremes that wear people down everywhere else. That combination of consistent sun, gentle warmth, and a stunning coastline is exactly why Naples has become the benchmark that other towns get compared to. It's not just good weather, it's dependable good weather, the kind you can plan an entire lifestyle around with total confidence. Practical tip: whether you're visiting or seriously house hunting, aim for the shoulder months. Think November and April. You'll capture all that gorgeous golden sunshine while sidestepping the peak summer humidity and the late-day thunderstorms Naples is quietly famous for. Time it right, and you'll experience the town at its absolute finest. Now picture the payoff: powder-soft Gulf sand beneath your feet, a warm breeze carrying the faint scent of salt, and a sunset melting over calm, glassy water. A show so reliable that locals literally schedule their evenings around it. That right there is why Naples takes the number 1 crown. It's not just a town with perfect weather, it's the town that makes perfect weather all year feel like an everyday promise. So there you have it, 10 Florida towns where the sun shows up for work almost every single day and the thermometer rarely throws a tantrum. From the world record sunshine of St. Petersburg, to the barely there winters of Key West, to the quiet, breezy perfection of hidden gems like Punta Gorda and Vero Beach, one thing is clear: the dream of near-perfect year-round weather isn't a fantasy. It's real, it's out there, and now you know exactly where to find it. Now I'm genuinely curious. Which of these towns would you pack your bags for tomorrow? Are you Team Gulf Coast, drawn to those calm waters and legendary sunsets? Or Team Atlantic, chasing that fresh ocean breeze? Drop the name in the comments. I read every single one, and I love seeing where you'd go. We pour a ton of work into these videos, so if this one helped you dream a little, or plan a lot, do us a favor and hit subscribe. It's just one click, and it truly means the world to us. One last honest note before you go: weather averages are exactly that, averages. Any given year can bring heat waves, cold snaps, rainy stretches, or storms, and Florida does sit in a hurricane-prone region. So while these towns enjoy genuinely excellent year-round climates, always do your own current research before booking a trip or planning a move. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.